how's it going? It's Sam Frost here, back with some more digital marketing advice. Now, recently I was browsing online looking at various sort of digital marketing news websites that I like to go on, and came across a couple of headlines. One about Microsoft with the Microsoft Ad Network, or Bing Ads, changing targeting settings coming up. So basically you have to opt into their audience network if you want your ads to run on Bing search, and then also Google changing some of the targeting options that you've got with display ads and YouTube ads and so on, to basically make precise targeting more difficult. Long story short, they're basically setting it up so that where you used to be able to target the intersection of interest and a demographic, now you're targeting the two circles of the Venn diagram independently. If they happen to overlap, you'll get that targeting, but you also have to take the outlying aspects as well. I'll leave some links in the video description. I don't want to go into too much detail about the exact specifics of these changes, but long story short, what you're seeing with Microsoft here and with Google, same thing goes on with Facebook and so on, is this sort of never-ending march towards actually loosening ad targeting and making it harder to necessarily target people the way you want to target them. And sometimes there are reasons for this driven off things like privacy laws and regulations that make some forms of targeting challenging. But a lot of this move towards these black box type campaigns, Google being a great example with their Performance Max campaigns, which have a very limited level of control that you can exert over your advertising and tweaking it and tweaking targeting and so on. Why are ad platforms doing this? They're basically doing this for one reason and one reason alone, and that's to make more money. And there's two aspects in how the ad platforms, or the companies running these ad platforms like Microsoft and Google and Meta, are basically doing this. One is if you take, say, Google with their display network. So the display network has some good inventory on, say, legitimate websites. If you're in a country like New Zealand, take stuff.co.nz, Google Ads or Google Display Ads run through there. That's pretty much the biggest news website in the country. It's a legitimate website. People go there day in, day out. But equally, you have lots of fraudulent, low-quality inventory, made for display ad sites that are just designed to, jack a few search rankings and get clicks, legitimate click fraud, all these kind of things. And it's all kind of melted into this one big pot, basically. And what Google, I suspect, was finding is that people were getting more and more astute with their targeting at setting it up in such a way that they get the good inventory but not have to pay for any of the bad stuff. And really, with these changes that ad platforms are making, like what Google's doing and Microsoft's doing, their moves are basically a way of saying, hey, we know we've got some crap inventory and we're going to make you pay for it if you want to get the good stuff. That's really what they're saying. If you want to continue to buy the ad inventory, the targeting, the keyword rankings that you know are generating you good quality traffic and good quality leads and sales, well, tough luck, you've also got to buy all of the crap that we can't sell otherwise, or we're struggling to sell at a profitable price, because we want to do that to make more money for our shareholders, and you don't really have a choice. You can either stop using our platform, or you just have to deal with this change to the rules. So that's one aspect of it, is all of these ad platforms have inventory, for lack of a better term, basically ad space they could sell you either on other websites or via search or whatever platform or network you're talking about. Got inventory that, for one reason or another, is lower quality, harder to sell, harder to generate revenue and profit from. And so by making these campaigns where you have, or campaign targeting options where you have less control, they're effectively forcing you to buy into that crap inventory, that lower quality inventory, to get the bits you want to actually pay for. It's a bit like going to McDonald's and McDonald's saying, hey, you can't just buy a cheeseburger anymore. If you really just wanted the cheeseburger and that's all you used to buy, they might turn around and say, if we applied the same logic, you have to buy combo. You have to buy combo. You can't just have the cheeseburger. You've got to have the fries. You've got to have the drink. You've got to have the extra condiments and sides. And it doesn't matter whether you want them or not. Your choice is either buy the combo or don't buy anything at all. And that's going to actually lead to more profit. If McDonald's said that and you had to buy McDonald's if you wanted to eat, then their revenues and their profits would go up, right? Because actually it's the combo add-on that makes them the most money rather than the burger itself. Because it's obviously cheaper to produce the chips and the drink. Same with Google, this cheap inventory is cheap for them to acquire, and so they can make good profit off it by selling it to you and forcing you into using it. The other aspect is these campaign types that are becoming increasingly automated, like Performance Max in Google being the best example of this, or smart campaigns. This more sort of AI or algorithmic driven campaign type where you've got less and less control. The other aspect here is trying to introduce this black box makes it easier to hide that bad inventory, but also there's another aspect to it. So if you take a business that's, say, spending $10,000 a month on Google advertising, or has a $10,000 a month total budget, I should say, for Google advertising, you might find that they spend, say, $8,500 a month on ad spend and $1,500 a month on paying an agency or a freelancer to manage that ad spend for them. The exact figures will differ depending on location and industry and so on, but let's just say, for argument's sake, about 10% of every dollar that is spent on Google Ads advertising or Bing Ads advertising or Facebook advertising is actually going into paying for agencies or freelancers or marketing specialists. Now imagine if you're Alphabet, Google's parent company, or your Meta, Facebook's parent company, or your Microsoft, you're sitting here and saying, how do we generate more revenue from advertising in an environment of decreasing advertiser activity as the economy tightens? One way we can do it is actually look to create campaigns where effectively agencies and freelancers and so on who are clipping the ticket, they can't really add as much value as they used to be able to add because we've just taken all of the advanced targeting and sophistication out of it. And so instead we can come along to advertisers and say, hey, why pay your agency that money to manage a campaign for you when you can use Performance Max and you don't really need them to do it because you just put in a few criteria about your business and suggest some ad copy and we handle the rest for you. And you can see here you've spent $1,000 this month and made $5,000 in sales. So if you're that business that's spending $8,500 on ad spend and $1,500 on management fees, what Google wants is for you to spend $10,000 on ad spend and nothing on management fees because it doesn't necessarily add anything to their bottom line, to their revenue, to their profit. And so you've got these two kind of overarching themes of needing to sell inferior quality ad placements and inventory and keyword placements and so on, as well as when pressure is on in terms of scaling up advertising sort of budget input because advertisers are potentially pulling back. One way to make more money as an ad platform is to cut out the middleman and go direct and then get that extra slice. With these two factors at play, it's not hard to see why all these ad platforms like Google and Microsoft's ad network and Meta with Facebook advertising are moving in this direction of making things more opaque, of making more of these black box campaign types that have fewer optimization controls, so there's less need for expert opinion or advice or setup. And look, sometimes it's actually better for a business to use a smart campaign or a Performance Max campaign instead of spending too much money on management. If they've only got a small budget, you might be better off to actually do a Performance Max campaign and let Google handle it and put every extra dollar you've got into ad spend as opposed to paying someone to manage something and not having anything left over for the ad spend itself. But equally, these ad platforms are pretty smart, right? The companies running them know what they're doing. They've worked out that there's potentially 5, 10, 15% off a lot of accounts that if they could just convince the advertiser to get rid of their agency or their freelancer and use these automated campaign types instead, that's a whole lot of extra revenue for them. So yeah, hopefully you find that interesting. Just my take on why we're seeing some of these trends in the digital advertising space. I'll make more content on this topic if you're interested in it. Please like this video if it's helpful. Please comment if you need any advice or support, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.